Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's career cluster, the Human Services. I am Angela Johannek from the Manitowoc County Home Builders Association. I will be the facilitator today and helping out with the chamber. Today we have Deanna Gensky, the Executive Director of Assigned Services, and Lieutenant Jenny Moffett from the Salvation Army. So I will hand it over to them.
Well, good morning, everybody. I hope that things are going well for you on this very bitterly cold January morning, that y'all made it and good and you're not freezing to death. My dog was not happy about this cold this morning, but to give you a brief overview of kind of human services, or this, for me, it's a nonprofit / ministry role that I have at the Salvation Army. I've been here for 4 years in Manitowoc. This is my first executive appointment with the Salvation Army. And the Salvation Army is a little unique in the world of nonprofit because we actually hold kind of two positions. I'm the executive director, if you will, of the Salvation Army and the charity and the social services and everything that goes along with that. But in addition to that, I'm also the pastor of our church, because the Salvation Army has a church as well. And so having both of those roles, I wear two hats all the time. It's just what I do. In addition, just some of the things that we were kind of asked to talk about, what does a daily life look like? Well, my daily life looks very different every single day. And that's one of the things I love about the job. In fact, today, so you'll see kind of a weird background, I'm actually at our food pantry today because I have 3 staff members out of our 5 staff members out sick today. So that means that I have to step into whatever role is needed for a given day. And today that means being at the food pantry, making sure that everything is going off without a hitch as people call in to get their food appointments, and they can get food for their families today. So what does that look like? Well, it looks like for the food pantry of answering phone calls, taking appointments, packing foods, stacking them in boxes, and then when people arrive for their appointments, helping them get their food in their cars. But that's not what a daily thing looks like for me generally. Sometimes it's sitting at an office answering emails and filing paperwork and doing statistics and reports and financial statements. But then other days it feels like going to the hospital to visit somebody who's having surgery and praying with them. Sometimes it looks like getting a phone call from the fire department and say, hey, Lieutenant, we need your canteen to come to this fire and give us hot coffee, as this fire is going to be a long time. And then as we're out there with the fire department and helping the firemen keep warm on a cold day or cold water on a hot day, then we might have the fire victims that we're scheduling and arranging places for them to go if they lost their house. Sometimes it means answering the door of our building and having somebody who's homeless who comes up and says, hey, I need some assistance today. What can you help me with? And it's maybe giving them a hotel voucher, maybe giving them a bag of food that they can eat, or giving them toiletry items or personal care items. Sometimes it means leading youth programs. We have a trumpet program, which I don't lead because I don't play trumpet, and a robotics program, which I lead because I pretend that I know about robotics. But all in all, my day looks very different each and every day, which is one of the reasons I love my job. One of the reasons I love being able to do what I do is because each day looks different. Each day doesn't necessarily look the same. Every Monday is not every Monday for me. Now, there are certain things in the routine, right? I have this meeting on these days and this meeting on those days. But again, each day could potentially create its own thing. Responsibilities, well, because we're a short staff or small staff, all of our responsibilities are shared. Everything I do, everybody else can do too, because we all have to be able to step into each other's positions at any time. To give you a little bit of a background on the Salvation Army has been around the world for 150 plus years. We were started in 1865 in London, England. And in Manitowoc County, we have been here for over 100 years, starting back in 1916. And so the Salvation Army has a long and storied history of doing good, meeting needs in our community, meeting our neighbors' needs throughout the world. One of the things we're known for here in this county is for our seasonal programs, which is Toys for Tots and our Coats for Kids programs. And I will tell you, those take the effort of the entire county, from people who donate the toys, to counting the toys, to sorting the toys, to handing out the toys, to picking them up, all of those pieces to the puzzle. We had over 200 volunteers give over 2,000 hours at Christmas to make Toys for Tots happen. In addition to that, we do our kettles, which again is about that many volunteers with that many hours so that we can make sure that we have the funds and finances to get through the whole year. One of the weird or different things, different aspects about a nonprofit is that we're not necessarily selling a service, right? I used to work in the profit world, for-profit world. I worked at a grocery store in management for a decade. And you know what? It was easy to do if you wanted to increase your sales portfolio. You brought in more items, you discounted prices, you figured out a way to sell more product to meet the bottom line. In the nonprofit world, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work where I can just add more sales to the bottom line. I have to figure out ways to fundraise. I have to figure out ways that I can kind of control my expenses. And that's a different aspect than a for-profit world. And I'm sure Deanna can speak to that too. Especially during the pandemic, that has changed and shifted how nonprofits have had to work. I'm talking real fast because I got a lot to say and I don't want to miss anything. Indoor, out, some of the questions that I had on my thing, indoor, outdoor, it's all the things. I'm indoor right now, but man, if I get a phone call from the fire department right now, I could get a phone call. I will go get that canteen. We will warm it up and get some hot coffee going, and it'll be an outside job, and it'll be dangerous because it's cold outside. But again, my job is diverse and fantastic and changes all the time, and that's one of the reasons I love it. So any questions or comments or thoughts or? Nothing? All right.
I don't see anything. Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome.
Hi, welcome to the session here. I'm Deanna Gensky, Executive Director at Ascend Services. For those who are not familiar, we about 4 years ago went through a rebranding process. And so prior to our name Ascend Services, we were known in our community for a long time as Holiday House. Our mission is to promote individual growth by providing community experiences, education, and employment opportunities to people with cognitive and developmental disabilities. So I know, kind of like, we have like all of these questions and I want to be able to give you all of that information, but it's going to give you a little background first about some of the services that we provide here at Ascend, which truly is part of my job. My job is to drive what services we offer, what services, when Jenny said, talking about the financial part, sometimes those are, decisions we have to make is what programs and services can we offer to the population that we're working with, which programs and services are making, I'm going to say, not making money, but breaking even, and which programs and services are we seeing like a huge loss that you have to almost sometimes take a look at it and say, is this really serving our mission? Is this really viable to continue to offer? So, when we talk about what's in our role, those are the heavier decisions that are in our role. But overall, what's gone on through COVID is it's allowed Ascend to take a look at what are we currently offering? What more can we do? And honestly, we took a look at it as an opportunity to expand our services under COVID. We started to realize that we weren't helping people in their home situation, for example. So we started to offer programs and services that really helped people, become as independent in their homes as they, so that they can remain in their homes versus going to, say, live in a group home or going to live with a family member. We were also really concerned under the stressful part of COVID, if people were eating, were they getting their groceries? And this is before grocery stores were offering that service. So we started to offer it to the people that we were working with is, do you need groceries? We'll go get it. Whether that service was funded or not, I was highly concerned that somebody might be literal sitting at their house waiting for the pandemic to be over and not going to get their groceries. So we were offering up grocery services. We, like I said, started to offer up what I call home services. We also started to work with a younger population. Up to a year ago, we were only working with adults with cognitive and developmental disabilities. And then all of a sudden we realized there was a huge need to start working with children who are 7 and older, whether it was in their home, giving parents a break, because with parents working from home, a lot of parents working from home, and when school was not in session, they were trying to balance having a child with special needs while working from home, and they just needed a break. So we started to offer what we call respite services to parents who just needed a break. So that was something, again, we offered and took on during COVID. So, kind of what does a typical day look like for us? I'm going to echo what Jenny said. Every day looks different. Knowing like today, for example, we knew we had this on the calendar. So you kind of had to say, okay, staff and team, don't bother me during the Zoom call. There's a big sign on my door. Let me get through this. But after that, the door's open, so that could mean that, you've got 5 staff people in your office saying, I had this problem, this thing, what do I do about this? Or it could just be that one of the people that we serve just want to stop in and say, hey, did you watch that? Did you watch the Packer game? Because there is one that comes in every week to make sure I don't miss the Packer game. And he also has to come in and tell me what the Packer score was, right? So you could be in the middle of, I don't know, a huge document, and he's going to come in because the door's open, and you're not going to ignore the people that you work with. You're going to like, okay, stop. And again, respond to that. But that's the joy of our jobs is, it's the people that you work with. It's the population or your mission of the agency, and Jenny's got a mission, Ascend has a mission. And, what I continue to tell our staff is, as long as we are focused on our mission, that is exactly what we're about. And our mission is about the people that, that are coming here to Ascend. So kind of also sharing a little bit more about some of our services. Primarily, our largest service that we offer to people with disabilities is related to employment. We really feel that we want to help people develop work skills, develop their soft skills, so that they can obtain a job of their dream out in the community. So we do that in multiple ways. We offer work opportunities here on site at Ascend. We also have crews that go out to manufacturing or factories here in Manitowoc that we take a crew every day to, let's say, Parker Hannafin, for example, and we have a support staff that goes with them, and they do work right at Parker versus doing the work here. So they're testing their job skills, they're testing their soft skills at a site in the community, along with having that support with them. But ultimately, we really want to help people find their very own jobs and provide whatever supports they need, and then eventually back off those supports so they have a job and they're being successful all on their own. And that has been a formula we've used for years. And I mean, we did some statistics not too long ago, and in the last 10 years, we've helped over 300 people obtain jobs of their own in the community. This year alone, and I think it's really a great year to have helped people find jobs in one way, because every employer is looking for help. And in another way, we still have people who are very careful about wanting to go out into the community because of the pandemic. But we've in 2021 helped 24 people get a job in the community of their very own. Overall, we provide services to approximately 190 people in our various programs and services. So again, if you think, kind of back up and say, what do I do? I'm ahead of all of that. We have about 70 staff, 190 people that we serve. So my role is to make sure we're all focused on the mission and the vision of Ascend, and that we're, kind of like steering that boat to make sure that everybody's on track. So whether that means that we're providing training to staff on things like confidentiality and the code of ethics, or whether it's having a board meeting I have 12 bosses, if you will, as an executive director. There's a board of directors that oversees not the operations, but kind of our financial and our mission and vision. And I have to report back our progress every month at a meeting. So that would be another thing that's kind of a typical part of my month, is that I have to get ready for that meeting. I have to go to that meeting and talk to my 12 bosses. And then, I either get, yay, you're on the right path, or, hey, how about if we kind of talk about this little piece? Usually I get the, yay, you're on the right path. So that's a good feeling. Desk job or hands-on. I would say that my job tends to be more of a desk job than I would like to be, just because I'm the one that's, taking in and doing all of the, making sure, I'm going to say policies are in place, looking over financials, replying to emails. But last week, for example, and all those snowy days, that's kind of like when we're all getting here really early to make sure that our parking lot is clear of snow before our clients come in, because we don't want to have any slips, trips, or accidents. So last week, a lot of us were out there shoveling, warming up vehicles, because, our vehicles are used to get people to and from the mobile work crew sites. So last week looked a lot different than this week. This week, we're all under that little cold area and there's no snow. So kind of a little reprieve from last week. Just wanted to share a little bit too. I think one of the questions was, what kind of education, what classes did you take? And I think that that's probably something that you want to be hearing about if these are, a field that you're interested in. My background is I have a bachelor's in psychology, and I also obtained my master's in management and organizational behavior. Currently, or when I was hired, master's was not required, but moving forward, I redid the job description, that I really feel that it's a valuable, I'm going to say it's a valuable degree to have in place for this particular role. During high school, because it's a question here too, what classes did I take in high school? I'm going to say that I'm a lot older than the group I'm talking to, so our classes looked a lot different than what you have in front of you. I have two daughters, and I know that when they were going through school, I was pushing them to make sure they were taking all of the college prep or APA classes. And I also pushed them to make sure that they didn't just hone in on what they think they want to do when they get out of high school. I really wanted them to diversify. So make sure you're taking things like business, even if you think, oh my gosh, that sounds boring. Business is very wide, and it's something that you can use in your day-to-day life and also in any job that you have moving forward, because that's just like a foundation of information that I think is so important to put into that brain and to use. It kind of gives you, and I know you can't teach, I'm going to use the word common sense, but I think having business and some financial classes under your belt, it does bring a level of, I'm going to say, common sense to your forefront of your brain. So those are just some of my suggestions on some classes that you might want to think about taking while you're in high school. Let me think here. Average wages, oof, that one's hard. In nonprofit, and I think Jenny can attest to this, we probably would love to see our salary base much higher, but we don't do our jobs for money, right? I mean, of course, you have to have money to live and you have to have money to pay your bills, but we really could make a lot more if we went to the for-profit world, but that's not why we do what we do. I do it, and I'm sure Jenny can attest, it's for the mission of the work that we're doing. It's where your heart lies. And I think one of the things that I can say too is, if each of you really thinks about what you're passionate about, and you use that passion to guide your focus towards your career path, you're going to learn quickly that going to work isn't like hard or work or a job. It becomes fun when you are really passionate about what you do each day. So those are just some of words of wisdom from Deanna, the executive director here at Ascend. And with that, I would love to take some questions. And I know I too can talk fast, so I want to get it all in.
Thanks, Deanna. We did have one question here, and Deanna, you did answer it, but the question was about your education. So Jenny, did you kind of want to touch base on your education?
So in the Salvation Army, in my particular role in the Salvation Army, it's a unique position as the Corps officer. Corps officers in the Salvation Army are called through the Church of the Salvation Army, and we actually go to a special 2-year intensive training program for this particular position. But other staff members, employees of the Salvation Army who have other jobs have various degrees based on what their job title is. So the business admin would have, business degree. If I've got my social work case manager, they would have a social work degree. But for me personally, it was a 2-year intensive training program. Now, that is on top of the fact that I already have a bachelor's degree in biblical languages and classical languages, which Classical language is not terribly helpful, my friends, but because I'm also a pastor, the biblical languages was super helpful. I'm also working towards a master's, kind of had a blip in my life with the master's and didn't finish it when I should have probably, but I'd like to get back into a master's in probably missions or missional theology. Again, more of a church related aspect, but Deanna's not wrong. I broaden your horizons. I mean, I took classes in college because I went to a liberal arts college. But even in high school, I wish I would have taken more breadth of classes instead of, I really focused in on history, which is great. I love history. I'm passionate about history. And I find that to be very intriguing, but business would have been a very helpful class to navigate the world. Computer science, I didn't take, and Deanna, I can echo your being a little older than the folks we're talking to, but I didn't take any computer science, and I kick myself in the pants every day for that, because I'm like, oh man, I feel like I should know technology better than I do, but I just didn't. So I feel like just try it out. Even if you end up getting in the class, you're like, this isn't for me. Okay, get through that one class and then say, I'm not taking anything more in this particular arena. But it helps, because you never know what your path is going to lead. Like, I thought for sure in high school I was going to be an attorney. I was going to be a lawyer. That was it. But it was very clear to me when I got to college that that was not my career path. It was just not going to work out for me. And now I'm in the best job, in my opinion, I could ever have. It fits with my skill sets. It fits with my personality. And Deanna is right too. With nonprofit, you have to believe in the mission. It's a heart job. It's not you don't do it because you're in it for the money. I make very little money. Most nonprofit execs do, but we do it because we care about people. It's a very hands-on, people-oriented. Your heart goes out to people. Your heart goes out to making sure that people are taken care of, their needs are taken care of. And so if that's your passion, oh man, find a nonprofit to volunteer with. Find a nonprofit to ask questions of their employees and their staff and their volunteers, because it is the most rewarding job in the world to be able to do something that you love, and then it doesn't feel like you go to work. Now, don't get me wrong, there are days when I feel like I went to work because you have difficulties with staff members, or you have problems that come up, or fires that you have to put out. But generally speaking, I can work 60 hours in a week, because sometimes you do, because it's my job is not a punch a clock job. Mine's a 24/7, could be called up at any time, 3 o'clock in the morning kind of a job, but you don't feel tired or worn out because it's what you're passionate about doing. And you can feel good about like where you're taking your organization and how you're helping your community. And that to me is worth more than all the money that people could pay me in the world.
Well said.
Any other questions from any of the schools? We got about 7 minutes left.
Dang, we were fast.
Yes, great job. Anything else you two want to add before we close out?
I think one of the things too that, obviously as you're sitting here listening to us, one of the things that Jenny and I have become accustomed to as leaders of our agencies is that we have to do a lot of this, speaking engagements. We were teasing each other prior to getting on with this group that we didn't know if we could cut it down to 10 minutes a person. So here we are, trying to, rattle really, really fast. But last month I gave a presentation and they asked me to keep it between 20 and 30 minutes. I said, no problem. Next thing you know, I look at the clock and it was 40 minutes later. But out of fairness, they were really, they were pretty excited about the material I was presenting. So it was hard to cut it off at the 20-minute mark. So today I think we're doing good, Jenny.
I think so too. It's great. I will reiterate the one thing. If you're passionate about helping people, like that's your heart, that's your passion. Try to find somewhere to volunteer. I know Deanna's probably got volunteer opportunities. I do. Hope House does. The Crossing does. Painting Pathways does. Any nonprofit in our community. That's the other thing the great thing about Manitowoc, and this is a plug for somebody who's not from here, is the nonprofits in our community work together well. We get along. Deanna and I are at committee meetings a lot throughout the town, doing different things, talking in different places together, and we work together. But find a place that you can volunteer and get to know kind of what happens within the inner workings. Or find an apprenticeship. If you have a passion about business, find an apprenticeship there. That's one of the awesome things about our community, is that there's things out there for you to kind of try out and try to see if something's going to be a good fit for you, because you don't know until you try it, right? I didn't know that I would ever be a part of the Salvation Army. You asked me 20 years ago, 25 years ago in high school, I never would have thought that the Salvation Army would be on the list of things that I would do. But now here I am. So it's just one of those things. Try it out. Go volunteer. Go find somebody to talk to. Because you will find that the more you learn from people who have done it before you, that's the better way to learn than reading a book, right? Is talking to people who know what they're talking about.
We did have another
Yep, I saw a question come through.
Yep.
Go ahead.
What is the typical salary? Can you give us a range?
So for Ascend, we have, like I said, about 70 staff on board. Right now we have our support staff starting at $15 an hour. We had to make that decision to raise our starting wage because, McDonald's and Quick Trip are offering $15 to $17 an hour, and we just weren't able to get staff. And so we had to redo our budget and take a look at that and figure out how we can obtain staff. So starting wages for entry level or supporting people is $15 an hour. I'm going to say that it's, it probably goes from there on up to, other salaries. We have our case management or social services staff where they're, somewhere between the $17 and $20 an hour. And then you've got some upper management who are above that. But, again, it's hard to say because every nonprofit agency has a different size. Like ours is probably a little bit larger of a nonprofit, obviously from Jenny's agency versus the Crossing. And, so it does run its gamut all over the board. Now there's an agency similar to Ascend where I know the executive directors across the state, because we talk, are making, there are some who have a little bit larger of an agency and they're making right around the, $85,000, $90,000 a year as an executive. It's like, wow. We bring that back home here to Manitowoc and, it looks a little bit different than that. But, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, you don't want to know what Salvation Army employees make. So one of the things that's difficult about nonprofits, and it depends on the kind of nonprofit that you are. Ours is our nonprofit, all of our finances are 100% donations, right? And your average donor who gives you a nice big check does not want to see that money go necessarily to staff. And so we do try to, keep that balance between keeping accountable to our financial, piece and the donors and their donor wishes, because most donors want to see that money going directly to people and to helping people in their circumstances and situations. So we don't pay well here at the Salvation Army. You're talking probably $25,000 to $30,000 a year is an average for somebody who's full-time. But again, it's more the mission than it is the financial piece. And if you're going in, whatever you're going into, if you're going into it for the money, now don't get me wrong, I have student loans to pay. I get that happens. You just got to balance what is worth it financially to you as you're in your situation, and what is worth it to you psychologically and passionately, and what's gonna drive you to get up every morning to do the job that you're doing. So
Perfect. Thank you, ladies. We are right on time, so we'll close it out. So thank you to everybody. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Deanna or Jenny. And with that, I think we are done, Karen.
All right.
thanks.
Bye.
Thank you all.